What's up everyone, this is John with Skate Better, and today we are doing the Bones STF V1 103A wheel review. So it's finally time to do a review on this wheel. And the real reason why I wanted to try it was I was skating the Spitfire Classic 101 Duro, which is like their slippiest, slidiest wheel, right? And then I saw Bones made this 103, and I think someone in a comment had been like, hey, you should try the 103s, let me know. I was like curious because I really like slides. I'm trying to hold my slappy nose slides a little bit longer now. And this wheel definitely helped with that, so I'll get into that in a minute. But first, I'm gonna take a breakdown look of what this wheel looks like compared to some other wheels that you may be familiar with so you can see in comparison. Okay, so here's your breakdown of the wheels based on riding surface. Up at the top, the Bones actually has the least amount of riding surface of any wheel, coming in at 14.5 and 31. Then we have the Spitfire Classic coming in at 15.5, so very, very slightly amount more, but slightly more, and then a little bit more width as well. Then we go down to the Nomad shape, so the skinniest wheel we have at 30, but also reasonably amount more riding surface. So it's interesting, once you go from these sort of classic shapes to the tablets, that's when you're kind of like getting into this, you know, conical kind of range here. And then we go down to the conical shape, coming in at 19.5, 31.5 width, a little bit beefier than the Bones, but not quite as beefy as the Spitfire. And then finally, we got our beef champion, the conical full, coming in at 21, 32.5. And then I wanted to show you all this view as well, because I think this is even a more interesting view. You see, you got the Bones on top. It's definitely not as beefy as the Spitfire Classic, but the riding surface you can see is pretty similar. Then you go down, look at how much bigger of a patch the Nomad has, right? The riding surface significantly bigger, but then it's really skinny. Then you go down to the conical, which is definitely pretty beefy, pretty big riding surface, and then we obviously got our monster down here. So it's just really interesting how you can see hopefully you can see what these wheels look like, and riding surface compared to width from this view, I just think is so interesting. All right, so getting back into the actual wheel itself, a couple pros and cons for this wheel. Pro, it's a very light wheel. So compared to Spitfire, it's, I'd say, very similar in weight to the classics. It does feel a little bit lighter than the conical shape and the conical full shape, I'll say. When I first put it on the wheel, it felt a little plasticky, as opposed to like a Formula 4 has more of like a, I don't know, I'll call it like an earthy feel or a more grounded feel. And I think the Formula 4s just do a better job of going over crusty surfaces, so that's the other reason why this feels like a little bit more abrasive when you're rolling over stuff. As far as speed goes, it's not a very fast wheel. I mean, it doesn't have a huge riding surface, and it's not a very wide wheel as well. Like, it feels almost like a sort of a tablet shape, almost like a beefed up tablet in a way. And I do think it's less than average speed-wise, all things considered. Something else that I didn't really enjoy about the wheel is because it's a little bit of a slimmer shape, more like that tablet, it does show a little bit more of the axle. So in other words, like when I'm looking down and I put the wheel on, like the axle sticking out a little bit on the other side, and I don't love that. I actually liked more of like the conical, not maybe the conical full is a really big exaggeration, but the conical and even the classic shape, because it's like 32 width. It's a fairly wide wheel that really covers that. No, I just like the way that looks personally, aesthetically. It's not really a big deal, but just something I like. It's like a pro on this wheel is because it's so light, it's a very nimble wheel. So it felt really good for flip tricks. Felt like it was snapping really quickly on shove-its and things like that, where there might be like a little bit more friction. You're doing kind of a scooping motion. And then for the slide, it had a really, really good slide. I do think that this wheel does a pretty good job of getting grime off. Like the Spitfire Formula 4s tend to like keep a lot of gunk and crap, and sometimes I'd have to like scrape them against something. But the Bones wheels don't really do that as much. I don't think they pick up as much residue. I don't know if it gives you that much of an advantage, but I will say it did feel the slightest bit easier to power slide than pretty much any other wheel that I've ever skated, you know? It's weird because it says it's STF, it's Street Tech Formula, but let me tell you all a really big con about this wheel. I would never skate this wheel in the street. I think like the second or third day I was coming home from a session at the park, and I just like threw my board down to like go through my parking lot that's pretty crusty, and I almost died. Like I literally immediately threw it down and almost got yeeted off because the streets are like they're not great, but it's not like I hit a pebble or something. It was literally just could not handle going over a crusty street, like at all. I think it's the shape of the wheel combined with a little bit of the formula that's really making that happen. If you like to skate crust, probably not gonna work out for you. So as far as durability goes, it's pretty good. I have to say I'm impressed because having like that plasticky feel just doesn't feel like the wheel's gonna last very long. And I don't have any flat spots. I do a lot of reverts, and it being a slidey wheel, I was doing like some fun reverty stuff that I don't normally try. And yeah, it's definitely lasting. So the graphic side is pretty much completely torn up, and the other side is just like a plain Jane kind of, you know, creamy white. It's definitely a little bit whiter than the Spitfires too. So if you like a wheel that stays on the whiter side and doesn't necessarily go towards something like this, which is gonna be more yellow, that's obviously the Spitfire Classic right there. Stick with the Bones if you like a whiter looking wheel, whiter looking wheel. Something else I wanna mention is because it's a slimmer wheel, both in width and then also riding surface, it gives you a little bit more truck clearance for locking into grinds like 50-50, stuff like that. And then impact, sometimes I do notice a difference in impact with the wheel. I feel like a wheel like a conical or a conical full, even the OJ, is just something like beefier and meatier does actually help you with impact a little bit. Didn't notice it too much in this wheel. I was also skating the Classic right before, but I don't think it gives you any advantage when it comes to impact. But yeah, that's about it. I have to say I got this wheel on sale. I think it was like 25 bucks. I think it was under 30. If you like nimble wheels that are lightweight, that have a good slidability, and you do a lot of tech tricks and you skate in parks a lot, I actually think this would be a really fun wheel to pick up and try. On the spectrum of wheels, where it's like here are the beefy, meatier wheels, here are like the slimmer, techie kind of wheels, it's like pretty far over this way. But coming off of the Spitfire Classics, it wasn't that drastic of a change, and I actually really enjoyed skating this wheel. Next wheel I want to try, I think, is going to be the Spitfire OG Classic shape, because I really like the Spitfire Classic. I think the OG has a little bit of a bigger riding surface, so tiniest bit more stability. I have the Venture trucks on right now. I'm loving those. I'll do a review on that later. Definitely a Venture versus Thunder comparison video. And then I also just picked up a brand new April Guy Mariano 8.38 deck. Just know that I'm going to try that deck, finally try April, and give that a shot as well. All that being said, thank you all for tuning in today. If you've tried Bones, you've tried their STF, especially the V1 shape, I'd love to know your thoughts on this wheel or any thoughts about Bones versus Spitfire in general. If there's another wheel that you're really loving right now or you want me to check out, definitely let me know. Put that in the comments and I'll do that as well. If you did enjoy this review, please like, subscribe, and comment. I appreciate y'all. See you next time.